make this a little bit more interactive. David K saying Void version 1 rip. Maybe. We'll see how many differences there, or how much of a difference, honestly, they're able to make. Because, okay, so for folks who don't know, let's talk about this now. This is the Moondrop Void. This is, let's see, a few weeks ago, Moondrop did like a live stream, I think, on YouTube, or they did a video, kind of like a press sort of event. It was interesting to see, because I hadn't really seen that come out of an audio company ever, maybe. But in that video, they announced essentially 3 new headphones. There's going to be a expensive, let's see, what were I'm trying to remember what the price points were on them. I think the Electrostat was like supposed to be like $1,000. They're also going to be making a planar driver headphone, which is supposed to be, I think, $600. And then there's here the Moondrop Void, which is the dynamic driver headphone, $200. So they're kind of hitting all the different price points. And it seemed like, I thought the planar was actually supposed to come out about a month ago, but that got delayed. And then now we've got the Void here, which has landed, and it's been delayed again. And for folks who don't know exactly why it's been delayed, I'll catch you up in as best as I can. So Crinacle, actually, I think I can do this in real time. Let's see if we can. All right. I've got the internet. I've got the power of the internet on my live streams. Yeah, if we go over to ye old YouTube, let's go to Crinacle's channel. He actually posted a review of the Moondrop Void. All right, the Moondrop Void. He says it ain't great. Okay, and I'm not gonna play the whole. I mean, maybe we can watch little bits of it. I'm not going to play the whole video for you. You should go over to his channel and check it out. But he did a good breakdown, and in addition to like his normal sound review, which is typically what Crinacle focuses on, he did actually kind of break character a little bit and talked about build quality here on the Void. I think his reasoning for it was that this is like Moondrop's first headphone, and they could use some feedback in the build quality. But I think also the other thing to consider is just that the build quality on this thing is one of the most sus aspects of the Void, and it's hard to ignore at the price. So so there's that. But yeah, so Crinacle did his review of this. He actually, I don't know, go back and watch that review. He, in typical Crinacle fashion, like he sounds really critical, and then like at the end he'll kind of come in and say like, yeah, I'm critical. It's it's not as good as a lot of the best headphones, but it's still, I think he gave it a B-. So it's like not, he didn't rip it apart. He didn't say it was an awful headphone, obviously. But it's kind of hard, or it's easy to miss the fact that he didn't say that it was an awful headphone, given some of his earlier criticisms in that review. But anyway, okay, where was I going with this? The gist of it is that after he published his review, Moondrop actually came out and said that we're gonna actually delay the Void for another month or so. I think pre-orders were scheduled to be live like right around now, or within a couple of days of now, and that's no longer the case. So pre-orders might have even gone out. I haven't followed it that closely, but suffice it to say, this thing should have been viable now, but in response to Crinacle's feedback, they've delayed it a month. So what I'm kind of curious to see is like how much of a difference can they honestly make in a month? In that month, like I don't know where they are in the manufacturing process, right? If they were just taking pre-orders now versus taking pre-orders in a month, that might be an additional month of work time that could also let them hide, 2 months of work time, depending on how quickly they expect to deliver pre-orders. But Elazar, I see you asking how much does the Void go for? Moondrop's charging $200 for it. And I think a lot of Crinacle's feedback, let me move this thing out of the way. A lot of Crinacle's feedback was about the build quality, and like if I'm perfectly honest, like this is feedback I'm comfortable giving right now too. Again, this is on this version of the Void. I don't think this thing feels like it's built like a $200 headphone. I had a number of issues. One of them, actually, if you follow me on either Instagram or just kind of like my YouTube community post, I alluded to this. Let me punch in on this so you can take a look. Very, very small. But you can see right here, I've added actually little rubber dampers to my Void, because when the back of this cup smashes into the headband piece here, right? It's not uncommon that you get that sort of connection. But what is uncommon is that it makes a lot of clacking noise. And so I was not very happy with the clacking noise. So I went ahead and put those rubber dampers on it, and it does improve things, right? You can hear maybe that's what my Void sounds like rather than like clack, 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 clack. Let me see if we can go to Crinacle's clack so you can compare. And I do think I've got this thing set up so that you can hear it, but we'll see. All right, build quality. This is where he's talking about the build quality. Where's the clack?
Didn't tell me anything about it. I would have guessed like 50, 0.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So, I didn't like that, so I added my own rubber stops. I fixed it for myself, but obviously you shouldn't have to do that with your own, with a brand new headphone. The other thing, that's not the only thing about the build though. It's a little bit, I don't know, suboptimal. The other thing is honestly like the headband shape. So I've got, I don't know, I don't want to say I have a large head, but I've got somewhat of a large-ish head. And what I found was that this thing just did not seal very well, especially around here on the back of my head, right? So I'm monitoring here, but like I didn't get a seal right back here with the ear pads. And basically what I was finding is that as I wore this on my head, like these things just kind of like stuck out a little bit too much. And I don't know, that's probably not illustrating anything, but suffice it to say again, I didn't get a good seal, and it was hard for me to tell how much that was playing into my impressions of the sound or not, but regardless, it just didn't feel like it was fit on my head super well, and so I continued modifying it. So what I actually ended up doing is, you can see there are just 4 screws holding this headband, or holding each ear cup onto the headband. I took those screws off to remove the ear cups, and I took a pair of pliers and bent this headband. It's probably not enough that you would notice here on camera, but I basically bent it out here at this point, and then bent it inward here at this point. And what that's actually done is it's made this actually fit my head pretty well. Maybe not too surprising because I've somewhat significantly modified it or just abused it, but it definitely fits me better. Let me go back to chat real quick. Me here, Jane. The power of the internet in the palm of your hands. Yeah, with YouTube, being able to live stream me watching YouTube. I mean, I could just live stream my life now because I watch a lot of YouTube. Elazar asking, I wonder if these can compare to new Sennheiser Momentum headphones. Interesting comparison. I mean, they're going to be pretty different from the new Sennheiser Momentum. The Momentum is, I mean, I assume you're talking about the new Bluetooth noise canceling headphones, right? So it's going to be a closed back. These are an open back in case it wasn't clear. There you can take a look. You can see the driver there through the grill. These are not going to block out any sound around you. So they're going to be very different from that perspective. And then also closed back versus open backs. There's almost always like pretty obvious sound differences between them as well. Just based on what I have seen of Crinacle's measurement of the, in fact, we can do this in real time too. Crinacle does have a measurement of the Momentum headphone, so you can kind of take a look at it. But I believe the Momentum 4, the new one, is pretty stinking bassy. And the Void I would describe as, at least in its current version, I would describe it as actually somewhat of a bassy headphone. But I wouldn't call it like aggressively bassy. My God, these ads. Bruh. Momentum, right? So the Momentum Wireless 4, that's a lot of bass. Versus the Void, right? Let's pull that up, take a look at that. And you can see a couple of big differences here. One, here in the bass region, obviously the Momentum, you've got a lot more bass there, especially in like the sub bass frequencies, but that does even, that leaks up to about 200 hertz. So that would be noticeable. But then the other big difference here is in the upper mid range, where you see the Void is giving you more of a forward vocal presence, where it looks like there's a little bit of a depression, maybe a recession here on the Momentum. So they would sound quite different, apart from the fact that they are open back versus closed back, noise canceling versus a wired headphone. I think just purely on frequency response, they're also going to sound pretty drastically different. So not super comparable. I think more comparable would be like this versus the Sennheiser HD 560S. It's around $200, open back headphone. I think, well, what else was I considering comparing it to? There's that. I have also the 5.8X, which is another Sennheiser. You can get around $200. I don't know, there's also stuff like, honestly, the Fidelio X2, which might be an interesting comparison to make. David K saying HBB seemed to like it well enough, though. Yeah, to be honest, like, I definitely don't hate this headphone. My biggest criticisms of this headphone are going to be the build quality. The sound's actually pretty decent, I find. And again, I think Crin kind of said as much, right? He didn't say it was awful, of course. He just didn't say it was as good as the 560S. And I think HBB said basically the same. Like he liked the 560S better. I'm actually not so sure. I think I have listened. I did some back and forth listening with the Void and the 560S, and they're actually significantly different tonally. The 560S is kind of a lean, neutral, very forward in the vocals, and a little bit bright up top. Where the Void, in contrast, is a little bit more laid back. It's definitely fuller in kind of the mid-bass region, but it doesn't so much give you. It's not so much like a mud bass fullness, so that's good. But it's also not as aggressive in the treble, while also giving you, I think you get a stronger treble extension here on the Void versus the 560S. So that difference in the treble, right? So like lower, reduced lower treble, increased upper treble, generally is the thing that I will prefer. So I found the 560S, it can sometimes be a little bit fatiguing, just a little bit irritating in the treble. I don't have any of that with the Void, but I mean, they are otherwise like quite different. So it's hard to say which one is better versus worse, but I probably would spend more time listening to the Void just because it doesn't have that treble irritation. Casual audio file. That face when Sennheiser can make plastic premium 20 years ago. Yeah, man. It's interesting talking about, or just like even thinking about how I'm going to talk about the build here on the Void, because it feels like an inexpensive headphone. It does not feel like a $200 headphone. And then if I go and, handle something like my Sennheiser HD600s, also an all plastic build headphone, but it feels a lot nicer. It feels like the plastic is less hollow. Whether or not it actually is, I don't know, but that's kind of the impression you get. And that's, I imagine if you are into the business of manufacturing physical goods, you kind of understand what choices you make contribute to better feel. And they may or may not be things that are actually correlated with durability, which is kind of what we on the consumer side end up perceiving, right? It's like, how durable does this feel? How expensive does it feel? Right? These are not necessarily correlated with actual expensiveness to manufacture or actual durableness. It's just more kind of like a sense you get. And this sense-wise, it doesn't feel that great. I think part of it, I mentioned the clackiness for sure contributes to it. I think part of it is that this thing just feels kind of loose and wobbly. Like a lot of headphones that would kind of like clamp themselves together, these stay apart, and I think that doesn't help it, because that means that it wobbles a lot in the hands rather than like the ear pads holding it in place. I think even something as simple as like, if this thing was spring loaded, right? If it was spring loaded and like held itself like this, it might actually make it less comfortable. So I'm not necessarily advising that they do this, but there have been some other headphones where the hinge is just lightly spring loaded, and that gives, again, that sense of build quality to it, where it just feels like a more solid, stable thing in the hand. Not necessarily that it's actually more durable, but something like that I feel like would actually go a long way. So if Moondrop is making improvements to the build quality on here, again, within the next month, I don't know how much they can do. I expect them to put some sort of like rubber stopper or something in here, right? There's even like, if they found something that could fit into that groove, that was just a little bit of rubber in there, that would go a long way. And then I think also if they added like just like a light spring-loaded mechanism to the ear cups that would hold them out here, that would make this just feel like a a nicer build quality without it necessarily being more expensive to manufacture. My Life Matters saying, wow, a headphones review must be a 3-star set. So just for that record, this is not a review. This is me chilling, doing a pink noise session. MJ saying, bro, finish your Aria Snow review. I'm not doing an Aria Snow review, so I'm already done, bro. Septian Patterson saying, hey, a nice Saturday stream. That's right, just chilling on Saturday. You know, I mentioned up front, if you didn't join up front, you might have missed this specific point, but this is meant to be kind of just a more casual live stream, and I want to do more of these, potentially, you know, late in the evenings during the week, right? A lot of the reason that I don't stream as much lately is because, well, I'm working more, and then it's hard to necessarily have the energy to do a typical live stream. So thinking about ways that I can be more relaxed and streaming. We'll see if this actually helps at all. I feel more relaxed. Got my tea, drinking, for those that are curious, this is a tea I hadn't tried before recently. I believe it's called Holy Basil, something like that, Tulsi. It's like an Indian basil. It's actually really good. I've never tried it as an herb, but here's a tea. I quite like it. Jake Flicks saying, with AKGs and Sennheisers around this price point, it's probably going to be tough competition. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's like kind of an interesting point with Moondrop getting into the headphone game at this price point, is that Chi-Fi has traditionally been, for, you know, right or wrong reasons, been considered kind of like a budget alternative to more expensive Western brands, or even Japanese brands, right? It's like, but I think it's evolved kind of past that, to be honest. And, well, to a degree, I suppose. Like the Moondrop Blessing 2, okay? $320. It does not, like, Sennheiser does not have anything that competes with it at $300. Like, not even close. So in that sense, it's like, yeah, Moondrop is pound for pound price, you know, dollar per performance, just destroying anything that Sennheiser's doing at Blessing 2's price range. In the headphone game, that might be harder. I'm not sure, actually. I really don't know. But $200, so not super cheap as a headphone. Like, there's, you know, competitive, but not budget stuff at $200. But I don't know. It's like, you almost expect if they were to come in swinging with like a Blessing 2 quality headphone, that it would come in at like $300 and destroy things that cost $600, $700. But I think, honestly, like price-wise, this is probably competitive. I would say it's competitive at its price in terms of sound signature. Build quality is definitely where it's lacking. As far as like AKG and Sennheiser, yeah, I know. I actually don't have a lot of experience with AKG open back headphones in this price range. I have the K371 is kind of a reference because I know a lot of people like that at around this price range, but I actually don't really like the K371. Maybe I just don't like closed backs. I don't know. But I'm not that impressed with that. I do know, however, that AKG has a number of open back headphones at around that same price range, but I have not heard those. Sennheiser, I'm a little bit more well-rounded in. I've got the 560S, I've got the 5.8X, I've got the HD600, of course, and I've heard some others of theirs in the price range, so I have more frame of reference there. Juan, my face when I wake up, and now and a new Mark stream starts. Yeah, good morning. I thought you were fixing your sleep schedule, bro. What happened? Osvaldo Talonio saying Void versus 560S. I mean, I just talked about it a little bit, so I don't want to like recap it too much, but they're pretty different tonally. I would say sound wise, I think that they're kind of on the same level, but they excel in different ways. The Void is a warmer, bassier set and a little bit more laid back in the vocal lower treble sort of area, and a little bit better, I think, treble extension, at least more present treble extension. So where the 560S is, I think, closer to like a monitor style sound signature. It's a little bit more aggressive in that lower treble, which I find a little bit irritating to listen to for music. But worth calling out, this is this version of the Void. We'll see if that sound characteristic changes at all in the next month or so. Like, do they focus on just fixing the build quality? Like, is that what they're going to work on in the next month? Or are they going to actually go back to the drawing board and the sound and the tuning? Because, I don't know. It feels like a month is not a lot of time to make significant changes, but we'll see. Oh, I see some conversation about the tea. David K saying Tulsi is amazing. I agree. This is, I mean, maybe you're talking about it just as an herb. I don't know about its like cooking uses, but here's a tea. It's awesome.